Welcome to the program. My name is Marty Shenkman, and I'm joined by two colleagues. I hope I could friends as well. Amanda Koplin, who's a mental health professional. I'll let her introduce herself so she can get the initials correct. And Lou Harrison, who I will make a comment or two about. Lou is one of the better known and brightest minds in the assigning profession. He wouldn't let me say this in writing, so I'm saying it now because it's being recorded. And Lou is one of the best known estate planning boutique in the country. And despite those accolades, Lou deals with the human elements of practice in a manner that I think none of us do. So that's a compliment, Lou. And Lou is going to share with us. I don't know if it's more practical practice techniques and recommendations as much as it is Lou's philosophy. But either way, it's just as valuable. And I think that anyone listening to this will learn from it. And any professional in any of the allied professions, Lou's going to give you insights into what he does to maintain his well-being and that of his colleagues in his firm. Um, really valuable stuff. But to set the foundation, Amanda, introduce yourself, tell people who you are and about your company, and then give them a quick thumbnail of some of the prior programs because you may want to go back and see those if they have, because those all lead into what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So I'm Amanda Koplin. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I have a company that's a concierge behavioral health company called Koplin Consulting. So we work with people in the context of their homes and real lives who struggle with addictions, eating disorders, bipolar, depression, other mental health disorders, so that they could recover at home and with their families. So in that process, we've ended up working with a lot of different advisors, lawyers, estate planners, CPAs, financial professionals. And what I came to discover is that these professionals are in a really dire state when it comes to their own mental health. The rates of addiction, suicide, depression, anxiety are skyrocketing. So Marty and I came together and we decided we're going to do something about it and work on awareness and practical tips and tools so that people could actually start to implement things before the culture changes. It's not just waiting for a culture to change while people still die. So when he came to me for this, I thought this is a great next level of how do you manage stress before you become suicidal? And before you end up in the addiction, before you end up in the depression and the very, very serious mental health things. And I'm very excited to be here.
And the comments that Amanda made, she used some very strong words. Amanda and Lou are going to go through some of the statistics as we've done in some of the prior mental health webinars we've done. It's not an exaggeration, the word she used. It's sadly quite real. So we need to look at this both personally, for our firms, for our friends and colleagues, and for our clients. The incidence of mental health issues amongst trust beneficiaries is very substantial, not our topic today. Lou, I'm going to let you kind of lead the charge. And Amanda, I know, added some of these stats. So why don't you start, and Amanda will comment as well on the stats.
Well, thank you, Marty. And to your comments before, thank you for the kind comments, overstated by about 95%. But I appreciate your friendship, your collegiality. And if you're watching this webinar, I appreciate the collegiality, and I'm grateful to be your colleague as well. Estate planning and estate planning professionals have a unique sort of unicorn existence here, in that as a bar, as a practice area, we like each other, and Amanda knows this as well. We're somewhat therapists, and we are great. We care about our clients. Unfortunately, we don't care about ourselves enough. And 20 years ago, I became fascinated on this topic. Essentially, why are we living to work, and why are we not living to work, rather, and why are we working to live? And it just, you know, I got that reversed, but why is it we're not focused on ourselves? So 20 years ago, I started reading literature about that, and we'll come back to some of the problems here, but there was nothing that I found pertinent or directly on point with regard to estate planning professionals that would help in the day-to-day existence. So we started working over 20 years ago on strategic tips and ways that we can basically help ourselves. So that's what this session's about. And we start by looking at all the problems that we have with regard to being attorneys and being attorneys in this area. So the slide in front of you shows some of the percentages and problems that are confronting us. Amanda, what you just said, this is with regard to lawyers. 28% experience depression, 19% reported anxiety, and you see those stats. Those percentages are percentages that are greater than what the normal percentages are in society. When you say that 1 out of 4 attorneys experience depression, and you can continue on the slides, you're going to see that almost half of us are not satisfied with the practice of law. You know there's a problem, and that is the starting point. You can pick up any ABA journal, any journal in our area, and you're going to see that there's always an article devoted to the problems that we have enjoying the practice of law. And by the way, there is absolutely no reason why we can't enter the day with a smile on our face and end the day with a smile on our face, for sure. That control is within us. And so we want to get to some of the tips on that. Let's flip the slides, unless Amanda, do you want to talk about any of these?
Yes, I want to comment really quick. I think looking at the 2023 stats, the really important data point is what lawyers self-report. So this is not necessarily what's true, it's what they self-report. And when I, as a counselor, looked at those numbers, I thought to myself, that's very low based on what I know. And so you can see the challenges in 2024, which I think this presentation will help really manage some of those challenges. But if you go to the next slide, you can see that when you ask people more specific questions, now we're skyrocketing up to 50, 60, 70%. And the big problem is that when you ask people blanket statements like, do you have a problem with alcohol? Do you feel depressed? Do you feel anxious? They are left to their own stereotypes of their mind. Oh, I could get out of bed today. I took a shower today. I must not really be depressed. Oh, you know what? I'm not just worrying all the time and so broken that I can't function at work. I must not really be anxious. And so, oh, you know what? All these 10 lawyers, they drink twice as much as I do. So maybe the 10 I'm having in the 2 hours isn't really that bad. So when you start asking people specific questions and defining what a problem is, then you can get real answers and the data points skyrocket. The really interesting thing to me as a counselor that I am looking at, those are screener questions for depression and anxiety. And you can see the bars just going up, up, up.
And you know, Amanda, this is a question for you and for Marty, and actually for everybody watching this seminar. Oftentimes we see all these results and we take a step back and we go, well, the reason for that is because this practice is so, quote, stressful. And I have my own bias on that answer, but I'm curious if that sort of simple statement is really meaningful, or if we're truly missing the point on that stress is causing all this.
I've heard everybody say that their practice is stressful. I've heard people say, oh, I'm going to go to a bigger firm because they have more resources and it's going to be less stressful than me trying to do it on my own. It's like there's stress at every single firm. And the question is, okay, what is the cultural shift or the culture within the firm? And what are the sacrifices I'm willing to make? Because there has to be an endpoint, or the endpoint will come and it'll be death.
Marty?
When you are at a conference, see how many drinks the people sitting with you have. Sometimes if you just pause and look, what does it mean? There's real concerns here. I don't know what the correct term is, so both of you please correct me, but it almost seems to me, and I've seen this since I started in the profession, um, working in a major accounting firm, and I had a project, they needed it the next day, and I was there to like 3 or 4 in the morning, which I thought was crazy. And I was absolutely shocked when I left my desk to go home that there was like another dozen people in the office still working. What is the culture that we have? And the real question, can we really be creative? Can we really provide top quality work if these statistics on stress and exhaustion and whether it's drugs or drinking are even remotely true? And they seem to be true because they keep getting confirmed and reconfirmed in later studies. With AI, routine tasks are going to be eliminated. With the OBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, zero point 0.2 or 0.25% of families will face an estate tax. Are we going to be able to stay creative, which is the one thing that we need to do? We're not as a profession going to have the same level of work based on, the tax fear that existed when we had a 600,000 or $1 million exemption. Is AI, and we all know that AI's got a long way to go to take our place, but as clients perceive AI and online services as providing options, what remains for us is the human aspects of what we do, like what this topic is, and the creativity is professionals getting to the table. And AI is not going to do that for a while, I would hope. But if we're so stressed, can we really excel at tuning into our client emotional and human needs? Can we really excel at being creative? Um, I get some of my ideas, most creative ideas. I'm out for a run and I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not going to get my best ideas when I'm like, have a coffee IV hooked up, a cat IV hooked up, and I'm working 20 a day.
Well, that's exactly correct. So here's our first takeaway on this seminar. It's not the elimination of stress that we're looking for here. It's just not. We're going to have stress. And guess what? We want to have stress because that's an engine that drives us. It gives us purpose. It gives us productivity. The problem is, let's say the stress level that allows us to function well is X. We have 3X or 4X or 5X, and that's what's causing what Marty and Amanda are saying. So the question is not, do we have stress? The question is, what can we do to control the day beyond that? And so you have to identify the factors that are in front of us that are causing the ridiculous amount of time constraints and non-ability to take the walk, to smell the leaves, to read a book, to have the time that we really need to have. Marty, I don't think AI is going to allow us to do the steps that we need to take to have that quality of life and the smile at the beginning and the smile at the end of the day. It's going to be self-discipline, which we're going to get into. So if you flip to the slide that says caregiver burnout syndrome, that's just more of a slide that's going to tell us these are the problems that we need to.
I'm not sure which slide you meant, Lou. I'm sorry.
A couple more from here. So, and we can come back if Amanda, you want to talk more right here. So spend 30 seconds to 2 minutes just going through all of this. And this is what's causing the problems that are creating the end result, Amanda, that you're talking about, in depression and suicide, iteration and not being where we want to be, conflicting demands on time, right? Well, we know that for sure. Lack of control of your schedule. I suspect everybody on the call has a schedule that looks a little bit like a toxic landscape. I mean, it's pretty brutal. Lack of privacy. You're in the estate planning area. Guess what? Everything is confidential. You can't even talk about work to anybody. So you're carrying it, that burden, the stress that you're having in the day by yourself. Lack of social and downtime. We know Marty just referenced that. How about unreasonable demands? I mean, right? Are you kidding us? You get a email from a client that 20 years ago, the client expected an answer in 7 days. Today, they expect an answer in 7 minutes.
Can I interject an example, Lou? Literally, the minute before I got on this program, I had an email from a huge client or co-counsel on a huge client. The client wants to know if we can complete 2 incredibly complex trusts that are part of a very complex insurance plan immediately.
And Marty, unrealistic expectations. They expect that you can do that.
They do.
And Marty and I have been doing this for a couple decades, maybe sort of say 8 combined. And you go back a few decades ago, and
We're younger than that, Lou. Aren't we younger than that?
Absolutely. Marty and I have been doing this for about 5 years. So unrealistic expectations. 30 years ago, a very complicated, or actually go to 1986, a complicated generation skipping tax plan might take 3 to 4 months to put together. Again, now we're putting these things together in a day, a week, a month. I mean, it's like boom, 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 and that's the client's expectation. So if you look at the left-hand side, you see a lot of problems here. And the result is constantly feeling overwhelmed. And instead of carving out time for yourself, we are basically beholden to our calendar and to our clients' demands, and that's not going to get any better. So the next slide talks about how unhappy we are. I think the next slide does, or well, tell you what. Let me just ask that question. Amanda, is there anything else just in the state of affairs that you see that you want to comment on with regard to the legal profession for those that you've seen who are lawyers? Anything in particular?
Yeah, I think that the other piece of it, Marty and I talk about all the time, is that a lot of these people, well, all of these people, let's be honest, are type A people. And so that personality is the personality of thriving through achievement, thriving through purpose in that achievement, and fixing. And so we talk all the time about how if they see a problem, they want to fix it. And when they see themselves as the problem, the only way they know to fix it is to take themselves out of the equation. And so that's a really problematic thing that plays into it. When you have a type A personality, you are more prone to health issues, cardiac issues, sleep issues, all of these other things in addition to the mental health things.
So we have established now the foundation that for everybody on the call, all of us in the estate planning profession, lawyers in general, we have concerns over how we practice because we do a fantastic job for our clients. We spend 90% of our day thinking about our clients. We do an absolutely horrible job for ourselves. And so we're going to stop doing that. We're going to stop doing that in the next 45 minutes through these techniques. The very first item we have to recognize as we start going through techniques to help us is there is a strong force. You don't see this force, it's out there. It's like in the air, and that force is called the status quo bias. We as human beings do not like to change. Change is anathema. It's hard. We can look at something and say rationally, this is excellent advice by Marty, this is excellent advice by Amanda. I'm absolutely going to do that. You're going to hang up, and you are not going to do that because the status quo bias forces us to accept what's in front of us, and it's very hard to take action. So what you want to do as we continue along is on a piece of yellow paper, white paper, or a tab, jot down the things that you like that you're hearing and take that with you and start 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps at a time and start trying to implement these. I've been bloviating, I think is the best word about this stuff for a long time here over the last couple decades. And I've had a lot of people come back to me saying, yeah, we tried this technique and, you know, it really worked well. Although it'd be more fun for somebody to call me and say, I tried this and it didn't work at all, but I haven't got that one yet. So I've had a lot of positives on the steps we're going to talk about. So status quo bias, let's keep going and start getting into some of
You
the,
say that you, Lou,
some of
are
the
you talking about people in your firm or colleagues as outside your firm as well?
throughout the country. Because, I mean, here's the reality, the way I've viewed it really forever since I've practiced. We're all in this together. And so I obviously see people in our firm and I'm all over them in terms of the stuff we're talking about here. But I have tentacles into a lot of my colleagues throughout the country. And I really want everyone on the call, everyone that I touch, to really try to do better for themselves. We owe it to ourselves to do that. It's just really, again, bizarre that we do such a great job for our clients and we do such a so-so job for ourselves. And that's not saying we don't feel satisfaction. I think we do. And it's not saying that we don't do a great job for our clients. I think we do that as well. And I think we feel fulfilled. But Amanda's point and Marty's point earlier about this is not the way we should be leading our lives because of the incredible overwhelming feelings we have by contributing to clients. That's got to stop.
I also just want to jump in and say people are driven to maintain homeostasis. And sometimes that homeostasis is chaos. And that sometimes people mistake calm for depression when they're used to orienting around chaos. The other thing that I'll say is that when you decide to prioritize yourself in a culture that expects you to self-sacrifice, people will start to react to you differently. And that might feel intolerable. And there are other people you might inspire to also start to shift their lives too. So if you start to get bad reactions from other people around you that start to feel punitive or questioning or, um, you know, undermine the efforts you're trying to make for yourself, it may feel easier to go back to your normal patterns of interaction, and everything in you will drive you back towards that homeostasis.
So Amanda, that's a terrific point. If you ever think about learning a sport, learning how to play bridge, doing some activity that you've never done before, you start that activity. Generally, most of us are not very good at that, and we reach a point early on where we sort of want to give up. And you got to break through that point so that you can get to the position of competency in that activity that you want. Same with this. Obviously, we have homeostasis. We're going to have to work through that to get to a point that is comfortable for us, and that is a better point guaranteed. So tip number one is sort of dealing with the in the moment stress. Marty and I could give about 5 hours of examples on this. The one that makes me smile a little bit is when a client called and they wanted a copy of the tax return, the 709 that was filed a few years back, wanted me to email it to them. And it was one of those where I hadn't really touched it. I didn't have any memory of it. I vaguely recalled it. I knew that it was a really important gift tax return, Marty, because it was a discount taken, had GST implications, so forth and so on. So called a colleague that I thought had done it. And the colleague said the following to me. Oh yeah, I was definitely in charge of that one. I'm like, great. Can you send it to me? Well, actually, I forgot to do it. Currently an ex-colleague, and probably in the future an ex-colleague too. I forgot to do it. So your blood pressure goes up, the stress went up. You're going to have those moments. We probably have similar moments, not at that level every day, So you have the in the moment stress. You need some techniques to deal with the in the moment stress. A couple things that I would recommend. Number one is pause. Right. So what I did is that, of course, I started going on the email and figuring out, are we sure we didn't file this? And what did we say? And was it our responsibility? And maybe somebody else did it. So I'm going about 95 miles an hour trying to figure this out. So the very first thing is pause. The second is breathe. Like I think I wasn't breathing for about 30 minutes. The third
My
is
heart's racing just thinking about your example. You're getting me upset. We've all been there.
What's that?
We've all been there too many times.
We've been there. In terms of breathing, I know this is going to sound a little basic, but this absolutely unequivocally works. Take some deep breaths, inhales, exhales, big time on these in the moment stress issues. Take a 30 seconds, 40 seconds on the breathing. That makes a world of difference. And you might do that 5 or 6 times during the day where you take 30 seconds and you focus on your breathing. That is a huge reset. And then the other one, which unfortunately was told to me by a client, so always interesting that your client gives you advice, is posture. And she said to me, your posture looks like it's almost painful. So my posture currently probably looks like it's almost painful. She goes, if you can just sit up and get your shoulders back and sit up straight, I think that would make a world of difference to you. And I will say that I don't do that most of the day, but in the moment stress, when I do focus on my posture and I'm sitting straight up, it really does make a world of difference. So again, these are just in that panic moment, some ideas you want to take. And here's the final one, just a mantra in the back of your mind. It all works out. It all works out fine. It's all solvable. So this issue I had, guess what? Oh, I had one more flavor to this, Marty. Not a particularly accepting, kind, or nice client on this one. But on this particular matter, it worked out fine. It was resolved, and nothing bad came of it. So that's true with 99% of our worries. Remember, it all works out. So in the moment stress, Amanda, Marty, anything else that you want to do to calm yourself down immediately?
Tilt your camera up towards the picture behind you, just for a
You
second.
said, oh, the Buddha.
That's my only comment.
Um, so you are absolutely right. The solution to overwhelm is nothing. When you're overwhelmed, adding more, it's like adding more water to a full cup that's overflowing. It just makes zero sense. I always talk to the coaches I work with about the 3 Ps: pause, physiology, psychology. And that's the easiest way to remember the order of operations, because you can't do it in a different order. You have to pause first, then start with your breathing and heart rate, lower those so that you get out of your amygdala and into your frontal lobe where you can think. And then you start talking to yourself. What's the first thing I need to do? What's the real problem I'm trying to address? And then what is the step I'm going to take right now?
Okay, Marty?
I just think it's so important that people give weight and thought to what you've just said. You can get up and do a technical GST speech with the best of the profession anytime. I've seen you do it. This is important. And too often our colleagues are so focused on what they can do to serve a client with another highly technical tax technique that they dismiss what you just said as fluff. It's not. You can't solve a problem when you're frazzled. And sometimes common sense things, because they are common sense, that Lou just shared are real. But if a smart, successful guy like Lou can talk about pausing and taking a breath, there's no one else in the profession, no one that shouldn't be able to do the same. I was seeing the eye rolls. I have a reverse camera. I can see all the attendees. I see the eye rolls. And they shouldn't.
And, you know, sometimes, so we'll keep going on here. One more slide on the other resets. So sometimes they're not as bad as the example I gave. So I'll give you a slightly different one. This one didn't raise my blood pressure as much. So Schedule M on the 706, to make the Q-tip election, I think there's a part 1 that you list the property, and that's for Q-tip property, and part 2 is for non-Q-tip property. If I got that right. I haven't looked at the 706 in a while, but I remember a couple of years back looking at it. We made a Q-tip election, and the property was not listed on part 1, but it was listed on part 2. So that would be the wrong place. That would be the place where there is not a Q-tip election. So on that one, that caused a momentary aggravation in my mind. So some other possible resets on that were, in this particular case, just getting up from my desk, walking out of the building and taking a walk around the block. Just to clear my mind back to what Marty said. You can't really focus on stuff when your mind's going a million miles an hour. So that felt really good. Oftentimes, I'll either do a stretch or actually try to get a 30-minute exercise session in at some point during the day, beginning, during, after, and even more than one, but I'm moving away from the screen. But here was the reset that really helped, and it helps on all problems. I eventually walked to somebody else's office and I said, here's what we got. Here's what we got. What do you? And we talked about it and we walked it through. And when somebody else looks at a problem that is not your problem, guess what? You get really good, objective, calming, important advice. And by the time I left that person's office, I wasn't even thinking about it again. And of course, like we were talking about before, everything does work out, and that worked out as well. So that's another possibility on the reset. By the way, it's okay when something like that happens, and the ultimate one on that one was to let it be. And of course, nothing bad came. And had it come, we would have said to the IRS at that point, that is a clerical error. This was clearly Q-tip property, and you should let it ride. And I'm fairly well convinced on that an agent, Marty and I deal with a lot of agents, would have been absolutely fine with that, had that been raised. So we are our own worst enemies on some things.
What you just said is something that I do frequently. I'm not part of a big firm, so I can't walk down the hall and talk to a colleague, but on the phone or now a web meeting and reach out to colleagues. When I have something that is really worrisome to me, I hire a colleague to represent me because I want them to give 110% focus to this issue that is concerning me. And I'm fine paying for it. I want to pay for it. I want their focus. And getting somebody, just like you said, objective is critical because they always see things from a different lens. And if it's an issue that could involve litigation, I don't do any litigation. I don't see things the way a litigator does. And it's just amazing to me how they see things differently. And by the way, what you just described and what I just said is exactly what makes us as advisors so powerful and helpful to our clients. Clients come in, they have all these issues, they're going on and on and on. And we can often look at their situation. And once we heard them out and saw, maybe a balance sheet of family, family data, family tree, we can sit back and say, here's one of the issues and here's a solution, just like that, because we are not emotionally vested in the client situation, even though we care, and we're objective. And that's really what I think you're saying is to just what we do for our clients to do for ourselves.
And Marty, the estate planning bar is so collegial. You can pick up the phone and call anybody throughout the country, and they will give you 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And when you're suffering in a problem, Amanda, we do feel like we're suffering sometimes.
Yeah.
They hear that because
They've been there.
that's what they do for their clients. And guess what? We all take a step back and go, listen, we're going to help you. There is nobody that calls me that has a problem that I am not empathetic for and want to solve it.
I'll call you more, Lou.
Don't call me.
I think the biggest problem a lot of people have in these quote unquote fixing professions, right, where people turn to them for the answer, is the idea that I have to do it alone and I have to have the answer. And most people only have their own lens. And just like Marty said, he's not a litigator. So he needs a different lens to be able to view his problem to have a whole solution. When you think that you are the only one that should solve the problem or it all falls on you, your level of stress will unnecessarily go through the roof.
Exactly right. And by the way, I would say, going back to Amanda, a point you raised early, we're trying to eliminate stress by going to a big firm or leaving a big firm or going to a different geographic region. It's not the firm, it's not the size of the firm, the region of the firm, what the firm's doing. It is making sure you have colleagues that have your back. And when you go, it can't be that simple. It is that simple. It is truly that simple. We are estate planning professionals. When we strive for perfection, we make multiple mistakes every day. Even when we're perfect, our clients think occasionally we make mistakes every day. You need people to protect your back. You need good colleagues. So enough said on that. I couldn't emphasize it more. So now I'm going to go back to a slide, Marty, on this upcoming slide. I'm going to go back and see one more, please. See if I can get this chiasma right this time.
Where am I going?
Forward about 4. There you go. One back one. Perfect. So again, I didn't say the chiasma before correctly, but it is, we definitely, as type A dedicated estate planning professionals, we definitely work to live. We do. There's some people that don't, they're in the minority for sure. We have, well, actually, I got that wrong again. We definitely live to work. Sorry about that all. So stop there. We live to work, right? We're spending all our time on that. We have to shift that to work to live. And it's not, you're not going to do a landscape shift here. You're not going to spend 90% of your time working and then spend 50% of your time tomorrow working. So you have to just put that mantra that we are working to live a life. We're not living this life to work. Just put that mantra in the back of your mind and just do small shifts. So when you have a priority that's not work, that you can't do because you want to work, just remember that you're not living to work. That's all I want to say on that.
Part of also what happened in the pandemic was, now that travel time was eliminated, employers expected people to work more time because they weren't in the car commuting, right? So if you would have gotten in the car at 8 to be at work by 9, oh great, you could just log in at 8. And so some of the boundaries got pushed, and oh, maybe your kids came home from school and interrupted you. That's okay, you could work till 9. So people really lost sight of their boundaries because the physical parameters of an office were no longer in play.
Some of the boundaries, all of the boundaries, they're all, how many meetings did we have on weekends before? And I know Marty is firm about this weekend stuff, and I'll let him comment, but how many meetings did we have on weekends before COVID? Like not many, really. Now, client doesn't think twice about saying, can we have a video conference on Saturday or Sunday? So,
Or 8 o'clock at night.
8 o'clock at night, 8 in the morning, what Amanda said. Video conferencing has hurt us, and technology, which is going to be the next slide, is one that we want to control. And we'll say a couple things about technology, but Yeah, there's no boundaries, right? We have to set them. Nobody's going to set the boundaries for you all, by the way. None of your clients are going to go, yeah, no, we're not, we got something on our mind that's really important, but we're not going to call you until 9 o'clock tomorrow. They're just not going to set those boundaries. So we have to set boundaries. We have the mantra. Let's go to the backpack rule, which is the next slide. I'm sure I can get something
Wait,
a little more.
before you go on, let me ask you a question, though. I think the fear of many people is, gee, this big client, this client wants something next week. I have to do it. If I tell them no because it's unrealistic, because I can't really put the thought and time to it, because I like percolate and think about the plan because it's sophisticated. If I tell them no, I'm gonna lose. I could lose them as a client. I gotta have my hours. This is a big client. I think people are worried of saying to a, I'd love to help you. It's not realistic. I can't do a great job in that amount of time. How do deal with that?
Well, number
What
one,
do you
Mark,
suggest?
yeah, I think that's I think it's not only a great comment, I think it's a comment that we all have. And it may not just be one client, because we're in the estate planning area, we have multiple clients. It gets to that point. We are not living to work. And when you say you have one client that is the most important client, I cannot lose this client. If I do, my professional life will be in the garbage pit. It's too risky. When you say that, you are now living to work. So you're violating what we're trying not to violate. So that's number one. Number two is, guess what? You lose the client. It's fine. It's fine. Your
You
life
think
will
anyone
continue.
else in our entire profession would say that so calmly, besides you?
Give me about 5 minutes with them in a conference room. I'll get them to say that.
You know, what I hear in my own head is people saying, well, that's easy for that guy to say. He's at the end of his career. That's easy for that guy to say because he's got other people working for him and other clients. That's easy for that guy to say, insert the blank. And I do think that so many of these decisions feel like end of the world moments. If I say no now, somebody else will be saying yes. And so, what about the person that doesn't have their own firm, their own thing set up, who's working for someone else?
Okay, and that's a really fair comment, and that's a fair concern. So I'm going to go to two things on that. One is the 90-10 rule, which Marty and I have talked about, which is 90% of your
Very true.
90% of your stress is caused by 10% of your clients. So guess what? Get rid of those 10%. But then, well, where am I going to be? I can't do that. I need that 10%. That 10% may constitute 80% of my revenue. Going back to Amanda's point, here is a reality. We may not want to accept this, but here is a reality that we have seen, and I have seen every single time it's encountered, which is when you remove that obstacle, I cannot lose this client. Oh, I lost this client. This is horrible. When you remove that, guess what? It's replaced. It's replaced by better clients, more clients, and a better quality of life. It's hard to believe that that happens. It happens every single time. And so you have to be confident that you are the lawyer you think you are. You are the professional in the estate planning area that you think you are. Because guess what? When you lose these people because you're setting boundaries, it's fine. It's going to be replaced with bigger and better and more quality clients. You
I mean,
have to
what you're
do it.
really talking
And
about
even
is
it's
faith.
replaced.
What's that?
I said, what you're really talking about is faith. Faith that things will come. And I think for me, the worst moments of my life, like the moments I sat there and said, this is the worst moment of my life, it ended up bringing me to the best things. But I just didn't see what was to come. All I saw was that moment, and it felt so big and so scary until I saw what happened next. But that was only through experience. And now I could look back on my life and say, oh, all those worst moments of my life, oh, okay, I'm growing right now. I'm just going to something better. And now I can see that and tell myself that message. But it's hard in the moment when you don't have the pattern yet.
It is hard, and it is faith, Amanda. And I'd almost put the word hope out there, but you don't have to. Hope's not a strategy. You don't have to say, I hope to get better clients. I am telling you, you will. You are the estate planning professional you think you are, and I guarantee you that you're going to replace these people, because it has happened to everybody I've known in the estate planning community. First of all, everybody in our community loses clients. They do. They do something that causes it, or they do something, or they don't do anything, but it still happens. And so we've all been through it, and sometimes they're great clients and sometimes they're not. But again, it all works out fine. Know that it's going to work out. I mean, that's the best advice I can give. That doesn't mean that you're at the end of the career, you don't have to worry about it, or you have a quality practice, you're not worried about losing one or two people. It's who we are as professionals. So
Two quick comments. One, when a client makes a demand that seems unreasonable or unfair, the first thing to do in our profession, and I know this is implied, I think, in what Lou said, what is the deadline? What is the urgency? What's going on? If a client has, a letter from the IRS that they just got and it's got to be responded to, that's not them imposing the unreasonable deadline. It's something external. If a client, and we all get this, their spouse, their mother, their somebody just took ill, just had an acute medical event, we all want to be there to help that person. That's different than a client who really just imposes an artificial deadline. Like, the honest truth is, I didn't really get around to telling you. I've been planning this transaction for 6 months. I'm just telling you 3 weeks before the transaction, I need a complex trust done. There's a big difference. So I think we need to, and I think we all do that. We try to find out what is the urgency. The other thing that I always have in mind, when a client is being unreasonable, like, I knew about this, I've been planning this, I just never told you about it, and I want it done now. When a client is acting unreasonable, in the back of my mind, those are the people that worry me, not just about the stress they're going to cause, but if they're unreasonable and disrespecting me as a human being, how are they going to be if something doesn't go right? So much of what we do is so esoteric. There's so little case law. Can you tell me, Lou, is there a specific formula that guarantees we don't have reciprocal slats? No. And that's a common transaction. There's so much uncertainty in what we do. If a client is imposing reasonable demands and not being fair, those may be the first people that are going to come after us for something that didn't go the way they wanted. That's always concerning me. It's a sign from the when you risk losing the client by saying no, maybe you're doing yourself a real favor for another reason. The other thing I find, I can't guess a percentage, maybe Lou has an idea, a very material percentage of clients that make unreasonable demands, I find when I say, listen, that's not reasonable, I can't do it, here's why, but I'm happy to help you under these other parameters. A lot of people buckle under, okay.
yeah, the example, one that we always have, Marty, is the client that calls you, they're in the middle of their estate planning. They go, yeah, we haven't got to this in about a year, but we're going on this trip to Albania.
Yes.
And can you just throw something together quick in, a few days? Usually they give you 24 hours, but let's just say, can you throw something quick together in a few days? Guess what the answer is? No, can't, period. Oh, well, just anything. No, nothing. You're going to get nothing, because what you're asking me to do is to do a sophisticated or a basic estate plan. I don't care. There is no such thing as an oxymoron as a basic estate plan. You're asking me to do something normally takes a month, and now you want it done in 4 or 5 days. I can guarantee you one thing: it's not going to be right. There's going to be something wrong with it. I'm not going to do it. No. And so what happens is it doesn't get done. Let me flip to the other point. Are you going to lose the client? Probably not. how about the client actually encounters a terrorist in Albania? Possible in that country, and has a mortality event. Have you committed malpractice? Absolutely not. Not even close. Oh, you didn't get the document done. You were requested to do it. I don't care. That is not a standard of care. A standard of care is not doing emergency estate plans or estate plans, and 20% of the time they're supposed to be done. So anyways, I'm pretty passionate about that topic, as you can tell.
What's the backpack, Lou?
Backpack rule. Here you go. We got to control technology. We have to control technology. You have to, as Amanda said, set boundaries. We do a horrible job on that. So number one is, what are you doing to set boundaries? Have you said to yourself, I am not working at night? Probably not for most of the people on the call. Well, I can do one or two things. I'm not working on the weekends. Maybe, maybe not. Marty's good about that.
No comment. I don't want you to see my nose grow if I say something.
You have to set boundaries. You have to. Okay, that's easy to say. Well, guess what? Here's the scoop. I tend not to eat candy bars. So when I'm at a store, I don't buy candy bars. But I have really kind people at the firm, and occasionally they know I like Hershey bars. They'll put a Hershey bar on my desk. There is
With almonds?
No almonds. I'm allergic to nuts.
Oh.
Literally, not metaphorically. And so guess what I'll do? I will eat that Hershey bar. The question is not will I, it's whether I'll do it in 5 minutes or an hour. I don't have the discipline not to do it. We don't have the discipline to stay away from our technology. We just don't. Some of you have heard me say this before. Part of it has actually been empirically proven to occur because of the endorphins that are released. So the studies to date, I don't think these are going to change, indicate that every time we send or receive a text or an email, there's a shot of dopamine released in our brain. Well, that's not good. That means that we're sort of addicted to receiving and sending these emails, technology. We like it. That's why when you're on a train, you look around and half the train is on their iPhone in the morning. So we can't help it. We're sort of Pavlovian technology dogs. I mean, we have the device, we look at the device because it gives us joy. So the backpack rule, which can be implemented in various ways, for me is I have my phone and I have my computer in my backpack when I come home, and I can do one of two things. I can take it out of the backpack and put it in the kitchen and the dining room and my study, at which point it's almost a guarantee that I'm going to be looking at that at some point in the night. Or I just leave it in my backpack and put my backpack somewhere not in the walkway. And guess what? I won't look at it. I just won't look at it. And are there emergencies that are conveyed there? Sure. No, there's not emergencies. My clients rarely have those kind of emergencies. If I have to have my phone, I know we don't want to do this, but I would say that you might want to consider having two phones, and one that's not connected to work at all, email or otherwise. But the backpack rule is put the stuff out of sight, and we'll come back to something in terms of your day-to-day practice in that regard.
I would also
comment on that.
I would add to that, it takes 30 days to build a habit and 90 days to break an old habit. So that means it takes 90 days without reinforcement for the neural pathways to die. And so the other piece of that to know is that as you're building habits, willpower is involved. And willpower is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more fatigued you get. So by the time you get, you're using it to get dressed and choose your outfit, you're using it to, decide what input to address first. You're like all day you're using willpower. So eliminate as many decisions as possible by doing exactly what you talked about, putting the cell phone in your bag, having an order of operations. So you're not thinking, where do I start today? Having your outfit already picked out. All you do is put it on. So the more decisions you could eliminate, the better off you're going to be.
I guess in that regard, on decisions and so forth. I guess it is a habit. You just have to take a single step on that in that regard. By the way, when we're talking about the texts and the emails and phones and so forth, I really hope that nobody's listening to this actually still has pop-ups or chimes or rings or dings or anything else that indicates a call is coming by the phone, or on their cell phone, or they're getting a new email or a text. I don't need to know that there's something out there.
You know there is. There always is.
There is. Guess what? You go, really? Tell me what you do, Lou, that when the cell phone rings. I'll answer it because it's been in existence since I bought the cell phone, whichever cell phone version I have. I don't answer it. Guess what? 10 years, 15 years, I don't answer it. It rings. It's the cell phone. I'll eventually see it and I'll call them back. I don't need to know I have a cell phone message. I don't need to know I have a text or an email. If I'm at work, guess what? Call me at work. Don't call my cell phone. And again, I don't need to be disturbed by that. So turn off all notifications, and it is absolutely fine. I have never had someone go, yeah, I called you like 3 times. You never called me back. I'm really angry you didn't pick up the phone.
I think we are beyond the days where somebody had to leave a voicemail on your home machine and wait for you to come home. Even if you were on vacation, it would be days, right? Until that, but the expectation was when you get the voicemail on your message machine, you'll call me back. But now it's if I can't reach you instantly, we have a problem.
I
Right.
emailed you an hour ago. How come you didn't get back to me?
Correct. You know what the answer to that is? There's no answer. There's no answer. Why didn't you get back to me? I'm not going to answer that. I mean, it's up to us to control the boundaries. It's a ridiculous question, or statement by them. So enough said. We want to do a great job. I get it. We're all driven that way. Perfection is not the standard we live by. Lack of any disappointment by our clients or colleagues, not the standard we live by. Learn to live with a little bit of client disappointment. It's fine.
Especially going back to a comment you made earlier, especially when the client's disappointment is due to unreasonable expectations. You can't possibly do sophisticated work and answer every phone call and email in real time. You'll never get anything productive done. And just a quick comment apropos to that, we think we multitask, doesn't work. Our brain is not multitasking. Our brain is switching from one action to the other and is incredibly inefficient. And given the highly technical nature of so much of what we do, you don't want your brain switching from one thing to another thing and then another thing. Take your time, do a project, then when you're done, you'll go back to your email.
Let's stay on that, Marty, and we'll get an opinion from Amanda in just a second. Let's say I'm multitasking. By the way, and that's way in the slide, so you don't even have to worry about it for a second, but we all do it. Everybody on the phone multitasks. And we do it because we're back to the endorphins. Gee, guess what? If one email releases a little bit of endorphins, guess what? An email and a text and a phone call all at the same time does. You get a lot of endorphins going. So we all multitask, and we all think we're really good at it. And Marty is 100%
Data says no.
Every study out there, not a chance. And so where do we go? Single step to everything we're doing. The next tidbit that we say is we all do it. We're going to accept that we do it. We're not going to stop doing it tomorrow because we've enjoyed doing it for however long we've been doing it. But we're now going to think about it when we're in the middle of drafting that will or trust or letter to the client, and it's getting a little bit boring. So we're just going to peek over to see what emails we've gotten, or a text, or maybe the Weather Channel. One of the most fascinating ideas, fascinating digressions I take during the day is the Weather Channel. My multitasking. Stop, don't do it. Just think, oh, I'm not going to do that this time. So single journeys. Amanda?
I would say you are absolutely right. I mean, one of the biggest fights that parents have with their kids or spouses have together outside of money is, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. You're in your phone, you're texting these other people, you respond to me, yeah, but you don't even know what I'm saying. And so, like that person who's texting and trying to converse, they have no idea, because eventually they look up and they're like, wait, what? Can you say that again? What? And so that's a great point. If you ever think you're a good multitasker, do you hear people saying, you're not listening to me while you're on your phone trying to have conversations? It'll teach you very quickly that you are not a good multitasker.
You know what the exception to don't multitask is? There's one exception. Your client
But
can multitask. So when you're in the middle of the conversation with your client and they pick up the phone, because their phone rings, violating many rules of mine. And at this point, some of the clients don't even say, excuse me. They just pick up the phone and talk. They can multitask. That's fine. I'll accept that from the client. That's who you are. But if you're my family or friend and you do that, that's a whole different deal. But I love it when you're meeting with a client, you're like talking about grants or partnerships or something complicated, and their phone rings. Yeah, no, I'll get the milk on the way home. Sure. That was really important that you picked that up.
You were really focused on what you were explaining. We should try to wrap up pretty soon. You want to make a few last points, Lou, even without the slides, or I
Yeah,
can go to.
probably one of the more valuable. So yeah, and we don't worry too much about the slides. One of the most important things we can do for ourselves on our work day. Again, we've talked about setting boundaries. Remember that your work day, you have high energy and low energy moments. And they go, yeah, I got that. Make sure on the high energy moments that you give yourself the time to deal with the projects that are really the most difficult projects, or the volume of projects that you want done. So for me, my high energy moments are between the hours of, I'll call it 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. I want to get everything difficult and as much stuff done as I can during that 6 hours. I don't want to have business development meetings. I don't want to have client meetings. I prefer not to have conferences with colleagues. I don't want to have a lot of phone calls. I want that time to think, do, and complete. And then my lower energy time is in the afternoon. Guess what? I can do a real good meeting on a low energy time. It's fine. You want to meet? Let's meet in the afternoon. So identify high energy times and low energy times, and make sure you're disciplined with that. So one more point on this. You don't want to go to work and the very first thing you do is you open your emails to see what emails you got. I know we're chomping at the bit to get to work to open those emails or wherever you are, but let the emails sit there and try to do more sophisticated work early on. Don't be distracted by that. Marty, Amanda?
I try to get a project done, and then I'll take a break and look at email or other things. Project. When I get to a stopping point or complete that project, then go on. What you say is so true. It's so easy to, like, every 5 minutes look at your inbox. You'll never get it. You can't concentrate. Nobody can. I don't
Amanda?
know what you're doing at 5 in the morning, but I'm not going to discuss that.
That's for the next
It,
seminar.
I think knowing yourself and knowing your patterns are the most important thing to changing your
Yeah.
life. I know for myself, when I start getting tired, I turn to Instagram and start doom scrolling. And I'm not really looking at friends' things. I'm just trying to keep myself awake. And so I like when I find myself doing that now and reaching for my phone, if I'm in the middle of something that I'm just getting tired, I take my dog for a walk. And then I listen to a couple of songs, get myself going, and focus back in. But I'm learning about the needs I have and the dysfunctional ways I used to meet them, like doom scrolling, and now meeting them in a very intentional way that actually moves me forward exponentially.
Well said. And Marty, we've covered a good amount of topics. We have a lot more. We have a lot more. I would say if for today's segment, we wanted to sort of wrap up, we have a lot more tips. We'll do that on a new seminar. But I would say that the global theme on this one is be the captain of your own mindful ship. Be the captain controlling where you're going, how you're getting there, what's the speed. And you are entitled to do that. And most importantly, all good will come out of that. There will be no long-term bad coming out of that. I guarantee you that. Trust yourself, and your life will be enhanced on a quality perspective. You will be excited the day begins. You'll be excited when the day ends.
And you'll do better work.
And you'll have better clients. Amanda, any wrap up from your seat?
I'll say 1 in 4, some say 1 in 5 people struggle with a mental health disorder, and some people are genetically predisposed, and some people they develop through circumstances. If you do not manage your stress, whether you're predisposed or not, you are likely to be more symptomatic and the symptoms are more likely to be severe. So this is something that is essential for everybody to take in, not just for their own well-being, but for the basic mental health that they have and live every single day.
I just want to thank Lou and Amanda. I hope people appreciate the insights that they gave. Um, Please remember, Lou is a very bright, successful estate planner, and he's talking about these human aspects of our profession, about well-being, and gave practical tips of things we all can do. And I didn't raise my hand to admit how guilty I was of some of the things Lou was talking about, but we all are. And we have to keep striving for it because it's really important. We'll do better work, we'll be happier, we'll be healthier, we'll live better if we do address these issues. And I encourage everybody not just to start, because do something, this has accomplished nothing. Make a list of 2, 3 things that you can start to implement personally and then maybe bring to your firm and tell colleagues about this. This is really important for the future of all of us. And thank you all for joining us, and I hope it was informative, practical. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Marty, for the privilege, and everybody for attending. And I am excited to hear success stories. So you can email me those, and questions about the practice of law, go back to Marty.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Lou.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.